With Florida finishing their spring game and finishing their spring practices for the year, I want to take a few minutes and just do a recap video and talk about the quarterback situation, as it looks like Richardson is kind of running away with QB1 right now. But let's do just a real quick recap over the quarterback situation and how each guy played, and kind of what each guy brings to the table. Talk about Richardson and Jack Miller. And I also want to kind of just recap Billy Napier's offense just to have a quick refresher. I'm not going to spend that much time on it, but I do want to spend a few minutes talking about Billy Napier's offense, and then go into some detail over Anthony Richardson and kind of what Napier said after the game, after the spring game, from Anthony Richardson. And then take a quick look at Jack Miller as well, just because he's been in this quarterback competition. But from reports coming out of Gainesville and what we're reading online, it looks like Richardson has really taken that next step and is kind of running away with QB1. But again, we're going to look at Napier's offense. We're going to talk about what Richardson did well in the spring game, and then talk about Jack Miller as well. But before we keep diving into it, just take the spring game with a grain of salt. Each year you see quarterbacks have great spring games, and then fast forward in the fall and they end up on the bench. Vice versa, you have quarterbacks with horrible spring games. Fast forward to the fall and you see them taking over the team. So just take the spring game with a grain of salt, but at the same time, there is some excitement to be had for his offense, especially for Anthony Richardson, because I do think he's a great fit for Billy Napier's offense. And anyone that's watched this channel before will be able to go back and watch those old videos and talk about the kind of deep dives of Richardson fitting with Napier's offense. But let's talk about Napier's offense and talk about what he really wants to accomplish and kind of what the philosophy and the scheme behind Napier's offense is. So looking at Napier's offense the past few years at Louisiana, it's evident and obvious they want to run, right? I think the lowest percentage of run was like 56% run out of his 3 years at Louisiana, and it was all the way up to pushing close to 60% running the ball, right? I think 58 something was the highest percentage there, but still, Napier wants to run the ball, and in doing that, when you run the ball, they are setting up easier throws for the quarterback and just making the quarterback's job easier. Now, yes, it's going to be tougher against the SEC defense than in the Sun Belt, but at the same time, the philosophy remains the same. Run the ball, get the quarterback in a position to succeed, and make those throws easier, right? The easier the job is for the quarterback, the more smoothly the offense can flow. So, like you're seeing all these videos, lots of pre-snap movements, right? Something we talked about in the videos in the past. Lots of pre-snap movements and motions, and they do this for several reasons. One, to get the defense out of position. Two, to see what the defense is in, particularly if they have a certain pass play called, and depending if it's zone or depending if it's man will depend on where the quarterback goes with the ball. So they want to see what the defense is in. And three, just to not give anything away offensively. They might not even care what defense that the defense is currently running. They might keep the exact same play, but they want to keep everything kind of uniform, if you will. They want that pre-snap motion happening each play, not each play, but the majority of plays, so the defense isn't able to catch on or anything. And in doing that, the passing game is able to build off the run game a lot at the time. You'll see a lot of play action. We'll see the QB roll out of the pocket a lot. It just helps make the QB's life easier. The number one priority in Napier's offense with the quarterback, or the number one priority for the quarterback in Napier's offense, and as we talked about in previous videos, is to take care of the football. If you looked at Levi Lewis's stats, he took care of the football. I think Levi Lewis had less interceptions over his 3 years starting for Napier than Florida's quarterbacks combined last year, right? It was either less interceptions or the exact same amount. So if you take care of the football and you make easy throws, then I think the offense is able to at least be average. Now you put in someone like Anthony Richardson, who is a freak athlete and has just tons of potential throwing and running, then that can take the next step. And the offense can go from average to good, from good to great, from great to one of the best in the SEC right now, if all things kind of come together. Now, the potential is definitely there for Richardson and Napier's offense, but at the same time, just a spring game, and we have season 2 come up and season to follow. Let's talk about Anthony Richardson in his spring game and how he did. And a few quotes from Billy Napier that I think stood out to me are talking about Anthony Richardson. He communicated well. The ball went where it was supposed to go. One, you love to see that communication. And two, it looks like he's picking up the offense fairly quickly, throwing the ball to where Coach Napier wants it to go. He also goes on to say, I can't say enough about him. His approach has been first class. Reports are also saying that the knee looks good. He really just showed his potential. So I'm going to read a few quick articles over from onlygators.com. And I'll put this down, but this kind of goes over his stats from the game. So Richardson was 18 of 24. 207 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. Also had a rushing touchdowns. Also had a rushing score on the evening. The article goes on to say his passes were crisp. His surgically repaired knee looks 100% healthy, and he managed the first-team offense exceptionally well against the first-team Orange defense that proved it still has miles to go. And then this is when it goes on to say, Napier says, "I can't say enough about him," referring to Richardson. His approach has been first class. So you always knew that Richardson had the super high potential, right? The super high ceiling. But seeing kind of the next step quotes, I think is what is really encouraging if you're a Gators fan. The fact he's communicating well, he's picking up the offense, he's been first class. Seems like he's really being a pro about things. So you combine being a pro about things, which I'm sure he always has been, but it's nice to see the coach say that. So you combine being a pro about things with his potential and his talent that he has, and you put that in an offense that I think can really help optimize Richardson's potential, and I think you have a really good situation going forward. But with that said, I don't want to forget about Jack Miller, because I do think Richardson's QB1. Anyone that watches this channel knows how highly I think of him, and this could be a really good fit offensively for him. But I still like Jack Miller. I still think he's got a lot of good tools from Ohio State. So let's go and look at what this article said about Jack Miller, which was not too complimentary, but I still think the talent is there. So it says Jack Miller, he was incredibly inconsistent with the ball, made numerous errors in the red zone. He completed 13 of 23 passes for a $121 with the end zone interception thrown into triple coverage. And the article goes on to say that Richardson made it quite clear why he is QB1 entering the season, as Miller got off his spot too easily and telegraphed passes too frequently. So probably not the best game for Jack Miller, but again, it's just a spring game. I don't want to put too much salt into someone that plays great, or too much salt or too much steak into someone that plays poorly, right? Because we've seen, again, the spring game isn't always indicative of what's going to happen in this season. But still worth noting that Richardson played great and Miller seemed to struggle at times. But I still think Miller can fit this offense. He can move with his legs, like we've talked about in the previous videos. He's got a good arm. I mean, hell, he was in serious quarterback competition in the best quarterback room in college football last year, right? So that has something to say about him, and that's nothing to be ashamed about, losing that quarterback competition. But I digress. Just to recap everything, Napier's offense, they want to run the ball, they want to get the ball going, and they want the quarterback to, one, take care of the ball, make the easy throws from there, and then when you add an athlete like Miller, or even, not Miller, excuse me, an athlete like Richardson, or even Miller if he does get the job, then a quarterback like that could take Napier's offense to the next level. And with Richardson playing so well and picking up the offense so good, it seems like during the spring, that's only going to encourage Gators fans. But I still wouldn't write off Jack Miller quite yet. I still think he's a talented guy with a lot of upside. But regardless how the quarterback situation ends up, and again, it looks like it's Richardson. It's going to be a good thing if it's Richardson. But I do think the Florida Gators quarterback room is in good hands with Richardson going at number 1 and Jack Miller. Even if he's number 2, I still think that's a good depth at the quarterback room. But I want to hear from you. What do you think about the spring game? What do you think about the quarterback room in general? What do you think about What do you think about Coach Napier's quotes on Anthony Richardson? Let us know in the comments below. We'll see you next time on the next quarterback-related video.